What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Today I'm here with Coach Mike McGaha on the preseason podcast for the baseball team. Coach, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. Things are going well for the baseball team right now.
Yeah, I think so.
Awesome.
We
Okay.
have no injuries, so
That's
good.
huge.
Yeah.
And especially with the cold, because it's been colder than usual here.
I don't know. I felt like last year was colder.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I told the kids this is the first time in 28 years I didn't start the season in like my full-on triple layers. I had
And your
shorts
snow
and
boots?
shorts and a t-shirt for the first week. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So I was going to ask you 5 questions for your preseason podcast.
Okay.
The first one is this a championship realistic team for 2025, the Cavemen Baseball team?
I think so. Honestly, I felt like even last year I was late to the party, obviously. Didn't get here till July. Didn't have much of an off season. Didn't really know the kids. Then football ended and a whole new wave of kids came out. And obviously a couple of those ended up contributing. I'm pretty sure. I don't think we had a set lineup until the 21st game out of 29 games last year. Eloy ended up probably being our number 2 on the mound, and he didn't get a start on the mound until the 5th week of the spring playing season. So if you reflect back on just some of those kinds of things, we're way ahead of that this year. And I felt like last year, even against Rio Rancho, I had a conversation with the team, and we're literally one less walk, one less hit batter, literally just one.
Right.
Not all of them combined, just one out of 4 things. We particularly do better, and we win the first game against Rio Rancho, and then you never know after that.
Right.
You get into the Final Four, you never know. So
Sure. Okay.
I feel like definitely this team returning has all the pieces. It's going to be whether or not we can put them together, and then obviously stay healthy. And then baseball is one of those. You got to get a little luck in the end to win it all. You just do. Whether it be a matchup or a call or the weather or something, you need something to go your way in the end.
100%. And that actually leads into my next question, which is about pitching, right? When you get into the state tournament, that's one of the biggest things. Yeah, you need to hit, you need to be hot, but you have to be deep on the mound.
Yeah.
What do we look like on the mound? How deep are we this year?
Well, I think in comparison to last year, we're way deeper.
Okay.
But I also think we're still looking for, when you have a Hayes and Wright, you're pretty much secure in the idea that you can go out and not give up any runs for 4 or 5 innings.
Sure.
He threw hard enough that he could get away with a lot of mistakes, as long as we could keep him in the game, as long as he threw enough strikes. We don't have that guy this year. We all of our guys are low to mid 80s guys. Aiden Cantella has shown some flashes of some ability to get into the 90s, but being a middle infielder, it's going to be how durable he's able to be throughout the season. Him and Jonas and obviously Eloy returning, all of those guys are mid 80s guys with good secondary pitches. And then I would say right now, on paper, not necessarily, what happens unfolds in a weekend, you never know.
Yeah.
But on paper, I feel like Garrett was first guy out of the bullpen last year. Riley, who had a couple of spot starts and overcame some shoulder stuff last year or whatever.
Okay.
He's going to be solid out of the pen. And then really there's a freshman named Wade Cozart that he showed some real arm strength this offseason, and I think he's filling in those top 6 spots. Coming out of the bullpen. Then you go a click past that, and we've got some specialty guys, so to speak.
Okay.
Gus can come in and throw hard. He probably just overall in general probably throws the heaviest ball.
Okay.
Doesn't have as good a secondary stuff, but he's a really good late bullpen guy. Then Tanner, he has a really good breaking ball. If he can figure out how to consistently throw it for a strike at least 2 out of 3 times, that pitch plays really well. If you look back at the state championship last year and look the way Cleveland got there and what they did once they got there, they had the kid, the senior kid that actually walked off the winning run on a walk against La Cueva. But, I mean, he's 90% curveball kid out of the bullpen, and Tanner's breaking ball is better than his. And I feel like if we can if we can find a kid like that that can be consistent, you know, that'd be a good role for Tanner. And then Nick Sandate is a very hittable guy, but he throws 3 pitches for a strike, and he's just time and time again, you know, summer and fall and winter has come in, and he's given up sprayed a few hits around or whatever, but he finds a way to get out of innings. He's a strike thrower. So I feel like those 9 guys.
That's a good.
It gives us, and it really does. And if you you know, we've inter-squatted a few times already, and there's not a lot of walks happening. And last year we walked way too many guys, and we were just searching for some answers. And honestly, this is just the offseason gave us a lot better feel for our guys, what we really needed to correct.
Yeah.
And we're close to being able to do that. So
good. Well, and when you talk about last year throwing a lot more balls, walking more guys, giving more free bases, do you think that part of that is not just technique but also mentality? Like, I want to be fine right here and be almost perfect, and this year it's just like, let's attack? Or is that just, it's more technique?
To be honest with you, I'm going to take the blame on it. I think it's just me not really, I hate to say this, but I mean, not really using the right guys.
Okay.
I mean, we had every anticipation last year of using Aiden and Jonas, but Aiden only ended up throwing 1 inning on the season, and Jonas only ended up throwing 2 innings on the season. But that was because of health issues. That was durability issues. That was put them on the mound and then them not being able to turn around and throw again. A matter of fact, we had Jonas in the bullpen against Artesia to close a game, and he came out and said, I can't go. And
oh, wow.
He was playing in the middle infield, and I thought, well, I better not risk it, you know? Right. So we moved on to some other guys. And I mean, honestly, I mean, at least 3 of those guys aren't even in the program now. They either graduated or we released them after the tryouts. So I feel like I just didn't know my kids well enough to really, well, for my philosophy. I mean, I knew them well enough to know who could throw and who could jump out there and get an out or 2, but not knowing who could be a long starter, a middle reliever, a short reliever, who had the best, you know, breaking pitch, whatever. You can see it as much as you want to see it, you know, in the bullpen, but it doesn't really necessarily always look the same when they get on the field. I mean, that was Eloy. That was the deal with Eloy. Every time I put Eloy on the mound last year in an inter-squad, our guys would tear him up. And then I'd ran him out there against La Cueva and wore extra innings, 9 innings, and Eloy was the most efficient guy we had pitch all season. And from that point on, I mean, he literally jumped up into the number 2 spot in the rotation and was money. And he just, you know, his velocity was 80, his breaking stuff was just okay, as a really good changeup. But the thing that made him really, really good was just how competitive he was.
Right.
And so you don't learn those things sometimes until it's too late or the season's gotten away from you. And so you look back at last year and you go, well, I mean, now we have a situation. If I take Hazen out of the game, do I bring Eloy to try to make sure and win the game? And then do I start Gordo in game 2, who hadn't had a start in 3 weeks of district, you know, for the most part? And so, I mean, you know, it gets to that point where you're drawing straws, and I had a lot better opportunity. You know, we may not win any more games than we won last year, but we don't have to win more games than we won last year to win at all.
Right.
You know, we just have to play well at the right time. So I feel like we have the right guys. I feel like we can, you know, we're more athletic, I think, in general. Due to an off season, we have pretty much the same defense, but we've changed the approach a little bit to match what I feel like our players are.
Sure.
Once I learned what we had, and I feel like that's, you know, an improvement that we've made in the program.
Yeah. All right. So we've talked about pitching. We've talked about like how you've gotten to know your team a little bit better. When it comes to hitting, and obviously offense is a huge part of baseball. You can tear a team down just in any different way when it comes to offense. But if you were to, obviously every hitter is different.
Right.
But if you were to pick one professional batter that you could model everybody after, who would it be? Like, who has the best swing ever?
Before I came to Carlsbad, if you knew my reputation, I was more known as a hitting guy for the majority of my career. So till I started taking over the pitchers and kind of fell in love with that. But I would say that I would have to categorize them. So I would say that from the left-hand side, there's two distinctly different swings, and I think they have to do with body types and strength. You have that Ken Griffey Jr. long, smooth, just everything flows. Everything starts early and finishes long. And then you have Bonds, who's like starts late, aggressive, violent, short, and finishes short. And so I feel like those are the two kind of categories from the left side, and we don't have very many left-handed hitters. But I feel like you have to match the kid to what his body type is and what. Right. But I think those are in my opinion, those are the two best left-handed swings of all time for the two different body types. From the right side, it's a little more difficult because I feel like from the right side, you don't have those long, smooth, flowing swings like you do from the left side.
Yeah.
And so I think that probably I mean, Manny Ramirez has to be the best right-handed hitter of all time. I think
he was incredible.
He does do some things that I don't think all kids can get away with. He had a little bit of a barrel drop, but he also had the right bat lag and some different things that I think made his swing playable. For as long as it was. Sure. He always used to say, you take the same swing on a 99-mile-an-hour fastball that you do on an 87-mile-an-hour slider. The difference is the slider's probably off the end of the bat over the shortstop's head, and the 99-mile-an-hour fastball's, out of the yard in the right center field gap, but it's a timing issue. But you take the same swing all the time.
He was a genius without being obvious about it.
Without being able to really, obviously for language barrier reasons and all that, to be able to communicate it in a technical way.
Sure.
That's the problem with baseball anymore is we've gotten to the point where we want to use words like connection, and then you talk to 10 different coaches and they talk about what does it mean to stay connected. Like they all have a different interpretation of what that means.
Yeah.
And so really it boils down to how you teach it and what your kids understand about it. But I would say that he has the best right-handed swing of all time. And then I would say probably real close second might be Miguel Cabrera. And again, body types have something to do with it, I think. And I would say that my knock on him, who am I to knock either one of those guys? But if I was going to criticize something about swing, I just feel like he has a little bit of a rotational load. And I think that kids that do that probably spin out a little bit and run out of bat and can't cover the outside half, which he's really good at. And so I would say he's probably a close second. I would say if I was going to have kids look at guys, I would, for the perfect swing, I would say look at these things, but ignore, Manny Ramirez's slight hip slide and ignore Miguel's, early front side rotation. I'd like to rather start with the internal rotation than add it during the swing. Just adds a step for a kid that he can't do.
Sure.
Any of those kinds of things. But there's a lot of other guys. I mean, obviously Mike Trout, but he has a little bit of a steeper attack. I think Alex Bregman has about as technical as a perfect swing as you can have, but he's a high pitch guy. He stays on top and he blocks himself with the front elbow and some things. But I feel like it's about as technical as you can get. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of guys that kids could go and look at to see how they compare to those guys. And I think back in the olden days, and maybe even when you played, I'm obviously a lot older than you, but you tried to tear a kid all the way down and build him all the way back up. And nowadays, I feel like it's a lot easier just to take the kid for what he is at face value make some adjustments here and there, small adjustments here and there with, and comparably to the big leaguers. And we do that. And we do that. It's not what you asked, the question that you asked really isn't one of those if. It's like when we get into it gets going, I'll text a guy, hey, you need to watch some videos of this guy.
Yeah.
Whether it be pitching or hitting or whatever, and I want you to really pay attention to his front foot or this or that because your swing type is real similar to this.
Yeah.
And then they can see it that way, and then it's easier for them to feel it. Yeah. Which is the part that makes it hard, right?
Okay, yeah. So. No, absolutely. So you say Barry Bonds, Ken Griffey Jr. from the left side, right side, Miguel Cabrera, and Manny Ramirez. Okay.
Those two, but not in the other order.
Right.
If you were going to list them in order.
Okay.
Manny's the best.
Very good. All right, so facilities, a big part of practice and putting out the best product out on the field is, having the right equipment, the right facilities. I think you guys have a decent amount of equipment on the field, but there's no facility for you guys to have a locker room, office.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Or what do we?
Yeah.
Where are we at right now?
Is it close? We're piecemealing it together.
Yeah.
I will tell you though, this is the best facilities I've ever had at high school level, without a shadow of a doubt.
Wow.
Now, out of fairness, I mean, at Piedra Vista, when I was at Farmington High, we practiced at Ricketts Park, which
can't beat that.
I think it's probably if it's not the best amateur venue in the Southwest, it's got to be up there, in the top 5. But we didn't have a locker room and a coach's office there. It was just a great facility to be at. Had good, big, huge dugouts and a good changing area and some things like that. So the kids, had that, but it was also cumbersome to practice at because the batting cages were outside the fence, kind of like the corral, and so you had some issues with supervision and those kinds of things, and so you had to get creative. So I learned a lot of lessons actually from those practices when I came to the corral because it's real similar.
Yeah,
we have a big, nice facility here, better than it's definitely better than anywhere that I've coached at.
Wow.
In terms of the field and the dugouts and the bathrooms being close by and I'll be honest, man, after I left Piedra Vista and La Cueva, I was like, if I don't have to, I'll never rake mud again. I mean, turf is where it's at for sure.
Oh yeah.
So, I used to think I was a classical guy and liked this, the fresh cut field and all that, but you can have all that.
Right.
I'd way rather be on turf every day. It's warmer. It's always ready to go.
True hops.
And true hops. And the turf never affects the outcome of the game.
Right.
It's good. So we are piecemealing. We change in the parking lot occasionally. Last year by this time we had moved into the portable, but again, it's a little cumbersome. It's limited parking, and you change out there, and then you have to make the small hike over and get all the equipment out or what. It just makes the practice day longer because it's not that big of a deal to walk that far, but you're adding 30 minutes to practice every day just to go over there, unlock, them get dressed, walk over, set up. Then when you're done, you tear down, then you walk over. You got to wait for every guy to get out of there. You make sure it's all cleaned up. They do their job, sweeping and doing whatever, and you go in and check it. And then by the time you get home, it's 8:30 at night, and that's fall. It doesn't matter when. It's not just because it's in the spring. So we've avoided using the portable this year so far. We're using it more for storage just because we thought this facility might be ready to go. But according to Greg, I think maybe next week is the open house, the 24th.
No way.
And
so
I think we can jump in there. Yeah.
Wow. I thought it was next year.
No,
so
I mean, you could be right.
No, I mean, I'm hoping I'm wrong because that would be incredible. I've seen some of it.
You have
incredible.
to put you're here and you're. I mean, if they say March, you guess July, and if they say July, you guess October, and if they say October, you say March.
Give it a grace period.
I mean, that's kind of what we've been doing. So
sure.
I mean. There is an open house for the community on the 24th. So, I mean, you can't avoid nobody being in there,
Right. It's got to be ready.
By the 24th. So, I mean, if it's not ready, then I don't know that we'll have an open house.
Yeah.
So I guess that'll be the telltale, right?
Sure. Is there like some things that you know about the new facility that you're looking forward to? Because I know locker rooms are supposed to be really nice.
Oh man, honestly, for me, well, I mean, and you know, we multiple programs are going to be in that building, and so figuring out a schedule to use it. You know, I'm a strong believer in the weight room, and so we don't ever take any time off of the weight room all year round. So, you know, obviously sharing that weight room facility and this weight room facility that we're currently in is going to make a determination of the ease of use of it. But I feel like when we actually get our opportunity to use it, you know, before I got here, evidently supervision's been an issue, and that building makes supervision for me a lot easier because it's not like you go and sit in a locker room with the kids. You have to sit in an area where you can hear, you know, if there's any ruckus, and you can pop in occasionally without having to, you know, walk across campus. You know, I mean, there has to be somebody in earshot of what, and I think that facility cures a lot of those problems.
Good.
That's the biggest thing. What's gonna make it easiest. I mean, the most excited I am is that there's 2 full, like I think 80-foot drop down cages on turf in there.
Really?
So when we're not lifting in the morning, we can go in and get 2 more rounds of BP a week. Which, being an old hitting guy, I mean, the more you hit, the more you hit.
Yeah, they'll see a lot more pitches. That's great.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Okay. Awesome. Good insight.
Yeah.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate you for being on.
You got it.
Wish you guys the very best, and we'll see. We'll have to have you on again before
Hey, yeah,
it's all said
absolutely.
and done.
Anytime. Thanks.
Awesome.
All right.